Flourish Evermore. Today is the monthly makes for the month of March, and it's everything that I have made, and I'll show you what I am working on and talk about some future things that I hope to do. So we're going to get started. The first thing I'm doing is the Jada and Stitches 2023 Fair Isle Style Calendar Blanket. That's a lot to say. And I have finished the month of March. And this is what the pattern, so this is half of it. This is what the pattern looks like for the month of March. I really love this design. It's so pretty. Shamrocks, but in fours, so like the 4-leaf clover. And so this is the whole blanket. I don't know if it shows up. That's the whole blanket, and that's why it's wide, and that's why I folded it in half. And I don't think I've mentioned, but from the Yarnable subscription, Hypnotic Yarns, January, I think it was, I got this cute little stitch marker that says 2023. And so because it's a calendar blanket, that's what I'm using as my stitch marker. The yarn that I am using is a South African yarn by the company Elle. It's called Pure Gold. It is a DK weight yarn. I am using a 4.5 millimeter hook, and because it is DK instead of worsted or Aran, whatever the 4-weight yarn is that Jada uses in her pattern, I have added an extra repeat. So I'm doing 7 repeats of the pattern instead of 6. And the yarn that I am using is called, I think it's called Irish Glen. I don't know if I have the label in my project bag. And by the way, I use project bags that I buy at shops. So this one is from my favorite, one of my favorite, I'm a coffee snob, one of my favorite coffee shops called Bean There Coffee. They do only, and I just drew a blank on the name, single origin coffee from Africa. They partner with farmers all across Africa and do single origin coffee beans. Great coffee. And in fact, tomorrow I'm going there to do a barista course. Actually, it'll be the day you see this video. So the color, the main color that I am using, I'll put that up higher, you can see it, is called Irish Glen, which I think is kind of fitting since it's a Fair Isle style blanket, calendar blanket. So I've used different colors. The colorway that I used for March, it fell off. Let's see if this one's it. This may be it. It might be that one. One is Reef, which I think is the blue one that I used. This one is Irish Glen. So I'm on my second skein of Irish Glen, and I don't see, oh, here's another label. Nope, not the right label. So I am not positive what the green color is called. I don't think it's Reef. I think that was the blue that I used. But anyway, that's the green color that I used. Again, Pure Gold from Elle. So that is, I call it a finished object because I am finished for the month of March, even though it is a year-long project. And I said this before, and I'll say it again. I really am glad that I decided to do this because it is quite fun. I think it will be a beautiful blanket in the end, and really excited about it. And I love that that it continues. At the end, there's going to be no sewing of pieces together. And I like that about the blanket. And there's one more thing I was going to say. Oh, this design for this month, we actually didn't use the bobbins. We just carried that, or I carried the green color. So we carried the design color all the way through, back and forth. And so that this month was a little bit easier, not having to deal with the bobbins as in the previous months. All right, my second project, I worked on a washcloth. It seems like a simple project, but this is the washcloth that I worked on. And you can see it is basket weave. I love this cotton. I got it when I was in the US, and I actually do love this cotton. Actually, I really love all of Hobby Lobby's yarns. To me, they are so soft. Even just the ordinary acrylic yarn is really soft. This they say it's a 4-weight, and it's 100% cotton. They recommend using a 5.5 millimeter hook, but I used and I'm going to check and make sure I got this right. I used a 4 millimeter hook. The reason why is that I have made several crochet washcloths, and when I got them wet, now it could be the yarn that I used, because I think I used a different yarn than the Hobby Lobby. I love this yarn, or I love this cotton. So it could be the yarn, but it seemed to, in the water, kind of expand, and the holes just got bigger. So I thought I would use a smaller hook than recommended, and that I would do a different stitch and see if I liked it better. I actually knit some washcloths as practice for knitting with the moss stitch, because it helped me practice the knit and the purl, because it was a combination of each. So you didn't have to do a complete whole row of purl stitches. It was alternating. It's a beautiful stitch. The washcloths came out so nice. They're not very holey. And so that's why I tried the basket weave stitch, because I was hoping, and because I used a much smaller hook than recommended, that it will not be so holey when it gets wet. This cloth, I think, will make a great kitchen washing up cloth, because it is so thick. Maybe I'll decide that it will make a good washcloth for the shower, but right now, because of the thickness, I think it's going to wash the countertops and things very nicely. I use a sponge for my dishes and my pots and pans, but I think for the countertops and around the sink and everything, it will work really well because it is so thick. So we'll see. I haven't gotten it wet. I just finished, but we'll see how that works. I am also making another washcloth, but this a knitted one, and I'll explain that because it's not a finished object just yet. The other finished object that I did was my socks. I finally finished a pair of socks, and I noticed when I looked on my Ravelry that I started it in January. And in fact, my husband, when I was working on the second one of the pair, said, "Why did you do this one so much faster? You spent a whole month on one sock." I was like, because I'm learning to knit, and I also made a really big mistake tried to rip it and frog it out, but ended up having to just start over again. I don't have sock blockers. I have not blocked the socks yet. I'm in the process of figuring out which ones are the best because I do have such a small foot. And so I'm not sure if I need to get a children's size sock blocker. Plus I want to make some for my husband, maybe my daughter. So I've kind of got to get different sizes. So in the process of figuring out which ones I want to order and getting them sent here. But this is my sock that I did and the second one. So I have a complete pair of socks that I have my hair on. And I'm very excited about them and the way they turned out. I really, really love them. And love this colorway. So it's Yarnable Hypnotic Yarns from that subscription, the Yarnable subscription. And this colorway is avocado. It is sock weight or fingering weight yarn that is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And when I made the socks, so I did 60, I cast on 60 stitches. The reason I did, so I was using the Crazy Sock Ladies vanilla sock pattern, but I must knit tight. I crochet tight, so I must knit tight as well because when I measured, I had 9 stitches per inch, not 8. And so I went to Norman at Nimble Needles, went to his sock tutorial on his website. And by the way, everyone I mentioned will be listed in the description box below. But I used his formula. And so I cast on 60 stitches for the cuff. Because when I started out with 56, I think it is, stitches in the first go round before I made the mistake, I could not get the cuff over my heel, or this part over my heel. So I knew I was doing it too tight. So I went to 60 because I wanted to do a 2x2 rib. I just love the way 2x2 looks. But then I increased to 62 according to Norman's formula, which 62 is a very weird number. So I went ahead, stitched 62, but he suggested when you do the heel flap, it needs to be a number divisible by 5. So I just went back to the Crazy Sock Ladies pattern, which was a 28 stitch heel flap. So I had 28 stitches on the heel flap. My first one that I frogged completely out, I did with the 9-inch circulars. This one I did with DPNs and love the way it turned out. I didn't find a difference on my fingers. The pressure or the ease, did it hurt my fingers? Didn't find a difference. I just thought my stitching looked better with the DPNs. And so I kept it that way. And then, so I did 28 stitches and did 34 on the front. That's what I left on the front needle. And then did the heel turn as well. And then I just moved my stitch marker back so that it would be 31 on the front and 31 on the back, half of 62. But then when I got to the toe decreases, obviously I had an odd number. So I actually decreased till I had 17. And I just used 9-inch circulars. I didn't do magic loop. Watched Linda at Linda Simpson Designs, and she used DPNs. She decreased and then put them on DPNs, which is what I did. And although I do struggle with DPNs, but I'm hoping that the more I do it, the easier it is. And the other reason is the only magic loop needles that are long enough, circular needles that I have to do magic loop are 2.75, and I didn't want to change the millimeter since I was using 2.5. If I didn't mention that, I was using 2.5 millimeters. And so I decreased to 17 on each, on each half, and then put them on DPN so that I had 17, and then decrease that down to 9 on each before I did the Kitchener stitch, which was fine. It fits, and very happy with it. Yes, there are a couple of mistakes because on my first sock, which is this one, I accidentally wasn't keeping track and decreased too much and then had to increase. So it caused a hole, and there's a little divot, but it's on the bottom of the foot. So when I wear them, you can't see them. And it didn't affect the size. I think they pretty much came out to be the same size and length. And in case these do look pretty small, I do have a small foot. It's small in length, but it's average for the circumference of my foot. I do not have a thin, skinny foot or a wider foot. It's just an average, but I do have a short length. So yeah, so I'm very excited about that. I watched a couple of videos, one by Roxanne, I think it's Roxanne Knits, and then I found another one that talked about, which I haven't tried yet, but I will look her up. She's got a great way to, so did Roxanne, but I think maybe an even better, I don't know, to close up the hole here when you pick up the, and I lost that word again. I did last month and I did this month, the gusset. When you pick up the gusset stitches, a great way to keep from getting the hole there. So yes, so happy. And I did start another one, which I'll explain because it's weird what I did. But look forward to making some more because I enjoyed it. I had fun. Even though it took me a long time to make that first one, I really enjoyed making socks. They feel good when I put them on. I'm looking forward to washing them and blocking them because I know it'll loosen and soften some of the stitches. And merino, any wool, usually itches me, but it didn't itch my foot when I had them on. So I'm excited about that. So that is my last finished object. And now on to what I am working on, my whips. So I said I was working on a washcloth, a knitted washcloth. I am still using the I Love This Cotton by Hobby Lobby. I have some left over. And so this is the beginning of my washcloth, just basic stocking net stitches. Although I do have to purl one complete row, knit one complete row. But the reason I'm doing that in just regular stocking net is I'm working on changing colors. I don't have the colorway because this is leftover. I Love This Cotton yarn, but I've started out, I'm gonna wind this up so you can see it a little bit, with this color, this variegated yarn. So that's the color that you saw on the needles. And I'm going to switch to this. It's a little bit sparkly yarn. I don't know if you can see. We have a very dreary, rainy day outside, so not great lighting. And then I will probably also do some rows of this that I had left over from the other washcloth. And basically, the reason I'm doing it is to help me change color in knitting. I watched a video that showed 3 different ways, watched another video that showed another way to do it, and I'm going to try and see which way that I'm comfortable with, so that when I make socks, I can do the toe, the cuff, the heel in other colors as well, or even stripes around the leg. I just want to be able to change the color of yarn as easily as I do when I crochet. And so that's the purpose of working a washcloth, just a basic washcloth, to practice that. I am still working on Linda Simpson's Pearls and Squares blanket, but I haven't gotten farther than I showed last month because I was trying to finish my sock and work on the washcloths, and we've been traveling. And it's kind of funny because in South Africa, you cannot get on a plane with crochet hooks or knitting needles, which in other countries they do. And so I wasn't able to really work on the airplane. I did take them because we checked the bag under the plane. So I did take it to work on while we traveled, but couldn't do it on the airplane as we traveled. And so anyway, made it difficult to take, a big blanket. And so, but I plan on working on it this month and getting some more progress on it, because I can't wait to see all those squares come out on the blanket. So I am working on that. Hopefully we'll be able at the end of April to show better progress on that blanket. All right, my sock. I am working on not one pair, one sock, for the sole reason of seeing if I can get by with 60 stitches the whole way through and still get it up over my heel. Because as I said, 62, because it divides into an odd number, was very difficult to work with. So I want to see if 60 stitches and a 30 stitch heel flap instead of 28 still will fit comfortably. Will go over my heel and will fit my foot comfortably. So I have started this sock, and the reason, this yarn I actually already used. I only have this much left. I used to crochet. I have a pair of Shortie crocheted socks, and so not sure I'm going to have enough to make 2 pair, plus, which I'll need to get in a second to show you, I am making squares, granny squares, with the leftover sock yarn. So I want to make sure that I have enough of this, because I did crochet a pair of socks with this yarn. Again, it's the Yarnable subscription, Hypnotic Yarns. Not sure of the colorway name because, as I said, last year I made crochet socks. So it's been like middle of last year. So it's been a while since I crocheted them, and don't remember the colorway name. The other thing that I am doing, by the way, everybody I've shown socks to wants to know if these will fit my foot. They think they look like kids' socks, which, as I said, I might need a children's sock block or so, but they actually do. Thankfully, the 2x2 ribbing stretches enough. Anyway, the other thing I want to try is, I'm not sure that I like the 60 stitch length on the foot. This comes up over pretty much the widest part of my calf. And so I'm going to try to, or I am going to make this one shorter. I'm thinking 40, 48 stitches or rows, and see if that just comes up right before for my calf and see if that doesn't fit a little better. So I'm making one as a test sock to see if when I make others for myself, how I like them to fit, if they will fit fine. And that way, if I can get by with 60, it'll make the maths easier. Although I was a maths teacher, I studied math at college, at university, but it is nice that not to have to increase and try to find the starting after the heel flap and heel turn, making sure that I'm really on the side back at the starting of each round. So I think 60 will just make it easier if it fits. So I'm working on that, and hopefully we'll have that done. The other thing that I am working on is an embroidery kit. I bought an embroidery kit because I think embroidery is beautiful. I cannot draw paint otherwise, other than doodling. But I thought, well, maybe I can trace and then embroider. And so I bought a kit here in South Africa, and this is what I am doing. I don't know if you can see that. So far, I have done back stitching on the stems, and now working on the stem stitch around the leaves. So yeah, I've been watching videos by, her name is Sarah Humphrey, and she's got great videos. She does beautiful work, has had videos for many years. I think I watched a video recently that was done 6 years ago, and she's still posting videos, so I enjoy watching her and learning from her. And so excited about doing this. Also excited because if I start making more amigurumi, I think I want to be able to embroider eyes and noses and those kind of things, and put some embroidery into my crochet and knitting as well. Plus the fact I think they just turn out so beautiful. And I did cross stitching, but I think there's something a little more creative, and there's more freedom in embroidery, from what I can tell. And so, because like I said, I'm not an artist, but to be able to copy a design and then embroider it the way and use the stitches I want to use, I think I'm gonna enjoy doing that. So starting out, learning that, and yeah, having a great time so far with learning how to embroider. And I've just put it in my head with knitting and now with embroidery that I am a little bit of a perfectionist, and so I'm trying not to be hard on myself, and that if I have a few mistakes, then it's okay, because I'm learning. If I was an expert or more of an expert, like in crochet, I might be a little more particular. But right now I'm learning, and so if there's a few mistakes, I'm trying to be okay with that. And the last thing that I am working on is I'm making a handbag or a purse, and I am making it out of banana silk fiber or yarn, and this is what it looks like. So this is what the banana silk fiber looks like. Really pretty fiber, very fuzzy. A piece just fell out, and love the color. So the colors that I got are not all the same. There's no dye lot. They're all hand dyed, and so I'm working with the darker color and going to work up to a lighter. There's not much difference. It will look very subtle, the changes. I am I watched a video. The channel name is called Bruna Cality, and she was doing a fuzzy bag and did half double crochets, and then did the next row, the stitches were between the stitches because she was using really fuzzy furry yarn. And this yarn is quite fuzzy, and so I'm doing the same. Now the problem, I have it upside down because this is where I finished. But I am gonna frog it, and that's because I have 5 skeins and I think this is a little too wide. So I kind of want it to be about this wide. And I think if I make it that wide, then I will have enough to finish the bag and make a pretty decent strap, maybe enough for a crossbody bag strap, longer straps. If not, I'll make short straps and it'll be one that you can put on your arm. But I look forward to finishing that. So hopefully that will be finished. That should be finished by the end of April. I just want to give credit to Reggie at J Hook Crochet because I'm like, what do I do with banana silk fiber? And she suggested a handbag, and I thought that was a great idea. And there is a fabric in South Africa called shwe shwe. So every African country, their fabrics, their cotton fabrics have a certain pattern style to them. And the style here in South Africa is called shwe shwe. In fact, this bag is a shwe shwe bag. And this one, may be the same, is also a shwe shwe bag. I'm trying to see if I have a different type of shwe shwe. Let's see if I've, oh, here we go. This pattern is also a shwe shwe pattern. So I'm thinking I want to line the inside, all that to say, I want to line the inside of the bag with that shwe shwe so then it's really an official African handbag or purse. Okay, I'm inserting this clip because I forgot to show you the square, the granny square that I made with my leftover sock yarn. So there you go. I don't know how to make sure you can see it well, but there it is. It is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. An 8 row round repeat. And then I will be putting them together probably with the next sock yarn on the 8th row. I'll start attaching it to the one before. So I don't. Next month, then hopefully I will have a square with this colorway that I'm making that one sock with, that I've made the crochet socks with. And so I'll be able to show you my progress on that. All right, back to the rest. So that covers everything. What do I have planned for the month of April? I'm definitely going to make another pair of socks for my husband, and maybe even, if I can get it done, a pair of socks, or at least start another pair of socks for me, especially if the 60 stitch cast on will work for my foot with the 30 stitch heel flap and heel turn. So yeah, I need to look at making a hat for my brother, and I promised him that I would make a hat. Thankfully, he is in the US and it's getting to be summer there. So I have a few months to try to get that done and to find a yarn colorway that he wants to do. I'm gonna finish or keep working on my embroidery and Linda's blanket and Jada's next month. The month of April should be coming out, I'm thinking next Friday, since today is the 31st. And as I said, I'm videoing on the 31st, but going to put it out on the 1st of April. Maybe that's my April Fool's joke for you, is that I really am doing it on the 31st of March. But that to say, I will be doing her next block for the month of April in her 2023 Fair Isle style calendar blanket. So those are my plans. Anything else? Who knows? I may find something that catches my eye that I really do want to start working on. So all that to say, that's what I've been doing for the month of March. Thank you so much for joining me and seeing everything. Love to hear what you have worked on in the month of March and your plans for this coming April. And thanks again for joining me. Hope y'all have a wonderful day and a great weekend. Bye-bye, y'all.